get that on both. I can repeat basically what John sent me in a text before Hamvention.
Okay.
But
why don't we start with the Grape? Why don't we start with the Grape update?
Yes. So we have 3 proto boards built, and this is all I know. Bob and Bill have the latest versions to work with, and U-blocks and magnetometer interfaces are working, and he's working on the ADD, last I heard.
That sounds wonderful. Bill Blackwell, how's it coming from your end?
The proto boards are working well with everything we've tested so far. We've got the UART1 serial interface working between the Pi and the Pico, which had been a kind of a bottleneck. So the command interface works. We're Bob and I are working on mostly Bob, initializing the U-blocks GPS for the 8 megahertz input signal to the 5351s. There's a couple of techniques to do that, and Bob is more knowledgeable about that. So right now, I think it's looking very positive. What else? Yeah, John is off for this week, so but we'll continue working, and we won't be held up any by that.
That sounds wonderful. That's a really, really good report. So are we still, do you have any sort of projected timeline of when you think we might be able to ship these things out to people?
I don't. I'd rather John say that.
Rather John say that.
He probably has a better idea of everything.
Do you think we're still on target for doing it before the October eclipse?
Yes.
Okay. That's the thing I'm most concerned about, because the thing I'm most, because I have 2 options here. I can just keep waiting on this and then be like, we're going to put all of our effort in getting this out on time and going, or I can do the other option where we say, okay, we're gonna give everyone Grape 1s for now, and then get those set up, and then do the Grape 2s. So that I'm trying to decide, like, when's that time I need to make that call, because doing that second option, there's pros and cons. One of the biggest cons of doing the option where you send the Grape 1 is it's going to cost another $7,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and great. The second option there'd be a ramp up to that too, which would take away from the first option.
Yeah.
Somewhat. So that's a trade-off. Yeah, at some point.
Yeah, so that's why I'm holding tight and hoping that it seems like the development is going along smoothly. And if you're telling me so your recommendation is just to hold tight still?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay.
I don't want to be the one to make the decision, but because I don't know the whole scope of the project, but
right.
At least I'm seeing progress on our end with the proto boards. The proto boards are, are flawless so far. And once I turn on ADD, we should start getting data, and then we'll actually prove that the Pico can absorb the data at the right rate.
That sounds wonderful. Okay. So yes, I'm going to hold tight for now.
Okay.
Great. Thank you for the update.
Sure.
Let's see. So that's really good. Rachel, any other updates from you?
I don't think so.
Okay. How have you been doing? Have you made any progress with the stuff for the CDAR conference?
No, I need to work on that. I think I'm just going to turn this machine that I'm pointing at into an Ubuntu machine to work on the pileup stuff.
Good.
Because I don't know how the mysterious university technology office works at this point.
Yes, that sounds very good. That's probably a smart decision. But we should still try to keep, maybe I'll send Chris Zorman an email later and talk to him about this. But yes, I think that's a smart decision. Okay, Gary, any news from you?
Two things. One, I'm just looking at the Google sheet where we have the people who've gone to the website and signed up for the Grape 2s. And there are 21 entries, which is great because there were 0 before the Ham Fest. Some of these are already knew about, for instance, Todd's here today and George and a few others. So I'll reconcile those with a past list that I had. So we are gaining traction. The other thing, mostly for Rachel, as I mentioned, I would like to start promoting the Grape project a little more heavily. We focused a lot on our SE publicity, but with some of the podcasts, maybe I get a little marketing graphic going for the Grapes or something. But it's something Rachel and I could work on, or anybody else who wants to contribute to. But that's what I'd like to do for the next couple of months, is get more and more people signed up.
That sounds good. And then you're going to use that sign up list to figure out who you're going to send Grape 2s to?
Right.
That sounds awesome. Okay, I think things are moving along really well here. So I have some other news.
If I might ask, do those of us who have expressed interest in the past have to sign up on that as well, or are we already on the list?
No, you're already on the list. You're fine, David.
Okay.
Let's see. So I have some very exciting updates from, first of all, I think I had so much fun at Hamvention, and it was good seeing many of you. And I think it went amazing. So any highlights from Hamvention?
Can I ask how many people seem to be at the Ham-Sci forum? I was covering the booth, so
I can show you pictures. It was packed. It was standing room only in the Ham-Sci forum.
that's great.
Yeah, so I'll bring up some photos here.
I would say it was probably there were over 100 people in that room because it was standing room only.
Yeah. Oh, Kung's trying to join the Zoom, so I'm gonna send him the link. There we go. Okay, so Kung should join us in a second. Yeah. So here is share screen 2. Yeah. So here's the yeah, so there's Gary. There's Rachel. She did a great job. Yeah, so it was quite a full forum.
Excellent. Yeah, we had created some converts while you were over there as well.
Thank you. And Rosie Schechter from ARDC was there. So it was awesome.
Do you know when the forums will be posted? Any idea?
The talks?
Yeah.
I don't know. I need to get the talks from our forum on the on our website. But I don't know. We'll work on that. Let's see. So that was really good. Okay, some other big news from Hamvention. First of all, you may know that we've been really struggling with the Tangerine SDR project. And I think a large part of this has been because of certain challenges with the FPGA. And at Hamvention, I spent a lot of time talking with Tapper members. I think it was Rob Robinette who came up with this idea. So Rob's here. Rob, do you want to give a quick overview of what you brought to our attention?
Yes, in my Whisper Demon work, we've been looking for a successor to the Kiwi. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, a successor to the Kiwi as a receive device. And in that process, we encountered a software package from developed by Phil Karn, KA9Q, who is, I guess, president of the ARDC. And Phil's package is a pure software library, but it allows it implements a algorithm that allows a single relatively low powered PC to ingest a fantastic amount of data. And in fact, we have it working on a i3 computer where a simple SDR that consists solely of an analog to digital converter, a 16-bit 122 megahertz converter with a USB 3 interface on it, feeds through the USB channel the 4 gigabits of samples up into main memory of the host computer. And Phil software then is able to process that in real time and offer literally hundreds of channels simultaneously. So it has, using his software, we're able to utilize, well, he has a number of devices, but the most interesting one is a device called a RX888. And this is a SDR that consists solely of a 16-bit 120 megahertz sample with a USB 3 interface. It costs under $200 in singles from China. It's an open source design, his hardware design, and the his, of course, Phil software is open source. So this the 888, when it is GPS disciplined, and it makes provisions for that, it provides a really extraordinary platform for receiving all kinds of signals. My interest, of course, is in the whisper receiving and various forms, but it's certainly suitable for WWV and other. Literally, you can do hundreds of channels simultaneously with that. So that architecture, the problem with the 888, from my perspective, is that it comes from China, from an anonymous vendor. We don't know of its availability. So I suggested that that architecture could be. You could, with a USB 3 interface board for the Tangerine RF module, the Tangerine could utilize Phil's software library. So Dave Larson and others have been meeting online this week, and my understanding from them is that Scotty and the other decision makers within Tangerine, within Tapper, have agreed to develop such a board, and it's should almost be nothing more than the Cypress USB interface chip. We have a developer, Franco Venturi, KV4Q, I think, or something. Is Franco's call, who's ready to support the driver for such a device. So we were able to get Phil's software working with the 888 in literally in less than a week. So if the Tapper group can develop that hardware, the interface board, it seems quite possible that even before the solar eclipse, that this version of the Tangerine could be available, and of course, it will have several advantages over using this 888 Chinese source, one of which is the diversity reception capabilities. So I think that project is in very active hands, and I think that it should be a basis for, that we can include well, we already have WWV channels running at KFS. I just have nobody listening to them yet. So it's almost entirely a software project to make this thing useful. The development work could start right now, really, to interface this Tangerine SDR to the Grape world. Could be done right now if someone wanted to invest some time. There is I have a system running at KFS attached to an antenna, and I can provide remote access. So if someone wants to do it, it's a pure software project at this point. And any work done now would be immediately applicable to the Tangerine hardware when it becomes available.
And I'm going to volunteer some people to do that.
Oh,
So-
good.
As it turns out, I have 2 students who are going to be hired as summer research students. One is going to be a full-time starting June 1st. The other one is going to be part-time starting June 1st. This is Rob Troy and Robbie Brodnicki from the University of Scranton. So they're going to be working with Majid Mokhtari, and so that team is tasked for doing that software development exactly as you described.
Oh, great. Well, then I would encourage you to get your own Triple H. You go to eBay and you can order them and they'll be there in a couple of weeks.
Sweet.
But I have a great site already up and you can, complete remote access to it. So
That's perfect. And yes, we are we're working on a new budget right now. And that rebudget is going to include us purchasing our own 888s and trying to get that system set. So you have Majid's email, Rob?
no, I don't. I didn't include him in my discussions because I didn't have his email and didn't know where to find it. So
Okay, great. I'm gonna send you an email right now. Would you mind coordinating with Majid? Because Majid's working on the plan for ordering the equipment. Majid's working with Dave Larson and with Majid's working with Dave Larson right now and with myself to develop that plan for the summer work for doing that development. So would you mind coordinating with them?
No, of course. I welcome anybody who wants to take on parts of this. There's so
Okay.
many projects underway that I'm.
Okay, great. I'm sending an email right now. So I'm going to say Grape Tangerine coordination. Hi, Majid and Dave, Rob, and Net has offered to help with the Scranton software development plan this summer. He knows please coordinate with him. I think you will find him very helpful. I'm sure they all know that already, but thanks.
Can I just add one comment on this?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I like the Chinese thing, except as Rob says, you have no idea what the source of that is or how it's going to be around. But one of the things that's important, I feel, that's easier to do with the Tangerine than trying to do with the other is I really like the samples that are time tagged.
Yes.
And that capability does not exist on the Chinese set.
Yes, we've had extensive discussions with Phil and others about how to time synchronize and to time label the incoming streams.
So have I.
Yeah.
And
So-
I think that's easier to do with the Tangerine.
Oh, of course. Yes, of
Yeah.
course. But it may be possible. Phil believes that if there were a appropriate kind of RF injector module, that one could inject a GPS generated burst periodically into the RF input. And Phil says he thinks he could use that to synchronize multiple receivers that have a common clock but no time tagging on the of their own.
Right.
But that's a theory. But Phil seemed quite interested in it. But it would one could envision doing this, various ways of injecting such a I don't know the capabilities of the Tangerine to do this, the RF module. As I recall, there was a noise source that was in the RF input stage that could be switched in, but that kind of switching would have to be done really by hardware in order for it to be useful. I mean, you want to identify each sample, or at least one sample periodically needs to have a time tag on it. But
Agree, and USB timing is no good.
We don't, if we can we don't care about if you can tag if you can identify a sample, the A to D, before the A to D, then you don't really care about the buffering, and you can even recover from errors in the transmission between the ADC and the buffer in the main memory of the PC.
Agreed.
So Phil is says he's already examining, the CPU is already examining every incoming sample. So it is, I'm startled by, I did not realize the power of contemporary, PCs. But I guess, with the memory bandwidth we have now between the CPUs and DRAM and RAM space, that it's possible. He's scanning the whole of the. Well, right now we're running at 66 megahertz samples, and so he has about 1 gigabit of samples coming through USB, and it's consuming like 30% of one of the 4 CPUs on the host to process that and FFT it and so on. So this library, I mean, Phil himself will tell you that he's built it upon a FFT3 library that is, I guess, in the distribution, and it was developed by MIT. And it's I'm completely startled. This is, when I encountered Phil's software library about a month ago, I just couldn't believe that that one could do this kind of processing on a general purpose CPU, but it's quite the case. So the timing is important. We really all want to have a diversity reception solution, and that's part of the plan, Bill.
I would like to keep going with this discussion right now, but I need to move ahead because I am but I think we need to keep talking about this. I think some of these discussions are going to end up moving to our Monday night telecons. There's not one this week because of Memorial Day. There will be one on June 5th. But yeah, so we're going to have Scranton. So Tapper is going to work on developing this USB interface board. Time stamping the IQ data is very important. Scranton's going to be responsible for basically making a Tangerine interface using this software that emulates a Grape. So, and what'll be great about this is you'll be able to emulate a Grape, and you'll be able to have as many slice receivers as you want. So along with that, so I mentioned we have those 2 students in Majid working on that part of the project. We also have on the line here now Kung. So say hi, Kung.
Hello, everyone.
So Kung is probably a familiar face to many of you. He's been an undergraduate student with us for the past he's been working on my project for about 3 years now, various things. And so he's staying here as a Master's of Software Engineering student, and the new Grape grant is funding him. So he is our fully dedicated software engineer for the next 2 years on this project. Right, Kung?
That's right. Yeah, and I'm very excited to take on this new project.
Thank you. Rachel looks extremely excited as well. And one of the nice things now is that Kung is also friends with the other students who I'm going to have tasked with doing that, making the Tangerine look like a Grape, a Tanger Grape. So Kung's job is to be able to take all of the data, help Bill Engelke get the Grape data onto his University of Alabama system, and to develop a data visualization and download portal that's specific to the Grape type of data. So what'll be really nice is now Kung's going to be able to work with Bill and this team on getting that working. Kung can work with Rachel to figure out what she needs in terms of what this data portal is going to give her for her project. And he'll also be able to work with Majid and the other students here who are working on making the Tangerine look like a Grape, because then that data needs to be fully compatible with Bill Engelke and Kung's system. So we're going to bring everything together. Let's see. I think those are, and then so I'm going to have to hop off in a minute, but I'll let you continue this discussion. For Kung is going to CDAR, and his job for his CDAR poster is to basically have the project requirements defined for what he's going to be doing to make all of this work this summer. So, you know, I know Kung has been at Hamvention taking notes, meeting with Bill Engelke. You can keep talking with him about what he's come up with so far. Last big thing before I run off, and we all also, I know David Kasdan has an update on 4 days in May, which he'll give in a minute. But last huge update, I got an email from NASA yesterday, and the Solar Eclipse QSO Party grant has been selected for funding.
Ah,
So this is huge news. We now have both an NSF funded project for the eclipses, the Grape, and we have the NASA funded project for the Solar Eclipse QSO Party and the HFTDOA and things like that. So, you know, it's been selected. It hasn't been awarded yet. I have some feeling they might be decreasing our budget a little bit, but I don't think it's going to adversely affect the project. But we'll have more information on the future. But this is really nice because the thing that kept me up the most at night was Gary was handing out those beautiful little business cards that said Solar Eclipse QSO Party, and the bottom it said a NASA funded event. I was really worried we'd have to get out this Sharpie marker and cross that out on 2,000 cards. So now we don't have to do that. We can take the highlighter out instead. So anything else before I go? And maybe David, you know, Gareth, do you think it'd be useful having David McGaw on the other Telecon?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, he may have some wisdom. Well, he does have wisdom, actually, and I think it may. Yeah.
David McGaw, would you mind join? I'll send you another Zoom link. Would you mind joining us on the on this other Telecon with Gareth Yeoman and me talking about Antarctic radios?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. I will send you that Zoom link in a second. So
Great.
I will
Well,
leave
when is that going to be? This
immediately,
afternoon?
right now.
Oh, immediately. Oh, right
Yes.
now. Sure.
Right now. So I will email you a Zoom link, and we'll all, and you and Gareth and Hillman and I will hop on there, and we're going to get this figured out.
Great.
Okay. So Rachel, you're in charge, and with Gary, and you can figure out what to do next. I'll see people this afternoon.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Hasdan, did you want to step in and do your QRP International?
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't know about this conference earlier this year or years ago, but the QRP Club International has a program they call 4 days in May. It's a couple days of amateur radio conference that overlaps with Hamvention. Bill pointed out to us that they were having a session on coherent CW. So Matt Cannell and I drove down to Dayton early to hear that, attended other parts of the conference. It was very good, and really HamSci should have had a presence at this one. I'm sorry I didn't know about it and didn't know to suggest. Between that and discussions at my booth talk at Hamvention, there's a lot of interest in the grapes, and people are aware that the mixer chip that we're using is out of production and there isn't any drop-in replacement for it. I suspect that Grape 3 is going to wind up being a commutating detector receiver, and I want to put a bug in everybody's ear that HamSci in March should have at least one session on that. Nathaniel has left, but I'll send him a note about it, and we'll see who we can get speaking. I'm last on the list of choices, but I can do it. There were some really good talks on it at 4 days in May from people who are actively designing these, and my guess is that's the next version of Grape. Won't affect the Eclipse, but with any luck, the work will continue. So that's Hamvention in 4 days in May.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
Okay, so I agree with everything that Dave said. There was one of the presentations at 4 Day in May that I found very interesting by Rick Campbell, who's a professor emeritus at Portland State University. as some of you probably are aware, lots of clubs and university groups do fox hunts to get people interested in radio and what it's about and that. And I've done that, and I'm currently doing that with a number of schools. Rick asked the question of, if you're going to do a fox hunt and the purpose is for the students to learn that are taking part in that, how do you run that fox hunt? Typically, we run the fox hunts the same way that they're run in the international competitions. It's on 2 meters with an FM transmitter. Rick raised the question about, okay, if you just want the students to learn and experience things, why not use AM? Because you can hear better the difference in amplitude as you move the directional antenna around than you can with an FM signal. And with FM signals, people tend to look at the receiver's bar scale to see how strong that signal is. I thought that was a very interesting point. And then he says, well, if you're going to go to AM, why not go to the 70 centimeter band? Because the antennas are smaller, easier for the folks to build, and they can explore with that. Again, that's not in the international rules for fox hunting, but if the purpose is for people to learn and explore, I thought that was a good point. And then he said, one of the advantages of using that but 70 centimeter band is with those small antennas in that, it's easy to run fox hunts inside of buildings. Well, okay, what happens inside buildings? You have metal gilders, you have all sorts of structures that are interference with this pass. Again, you experience things very different than if you were out in the woods. So I am now switching over to the fox hunts that I've been putting together to do AM in the 440 band because of those points. And I just think that we should start thinking about is, okay, what is the purpose of the fox hunts we do with the clubs and the schools? Or is it really to introduce folks so that they end up in the international competition? Or is it that they learn other things? And I think it's the learning that most of them are about. So I'm just saying to folks, hey, think about doing it using AM and up at 70 centimeters. Anything you want to add to that, Dave?
Sorry, couldn't get to the unmute. No, it was a good talk that he gave. I'll add to it, this isn't appropriate for absolute beginners fox hunts, but I'll add, in the international competitions, there's a separate section of it on 80 meters, and people are sprinting through the forests, holding small loop antennas, receiving on 80. It's a distinctly different competition. Sometimes it's added to the 2 meter version. And second point I'll make, for FM, to do it inexpensively, because not that many handhelds have AM detectors, there's an alternative antenna that was designed by the Coast Guard in the 60s, redeveloped at Case, actually, that uses the FM detector in a genuinely effective way. We'll talk about it separately, but fox hunts are interesting and the story of them is not over.
Thanks, and I enjoy the 80 meter ones.
Just to get us a little bit back on topic, any other news on Grape? Gary, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
I would just like to ask you if you've got a couple minutes at the end of the call to discuss some ideas about this publicity thing and where we might want to go. That's all.
Absolutely. Okay. If nobody else has anything else, I might end the recording.
Yeah, did we do anything about Maui? I mean, Kauai. Did we abandon that whole effort to? No answer. I guess.
Question for me, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. Who was organized? Who was that? Gary, were you you guys were trying to do a measurement of WWVH by putting a Kiwi in Kauai. And that was, I don't recall who was involved in that, but I think someone was trying to reach out to the local college or something. And I wondered if remains some interest. I did a trip to to Maui last month, and maybe going again this summer. So if there's, you know, if I can be useful in doing that, I'd be, you know, it'd be. But I didn't, you know, I don't know how important or the purpose really of those measurements or how important they are. But right now, my impression is it's kind of dropped off the radar screen. So.
I don't think it's dropped off the radar screen, but I think the issue was the internet connection on Kauai was going to restrict the ability to use the Kiwi over the internet. So the question became, why can't we do recording directly to a computer versus doing it remotely over the internet? And so that's where it's at. Christina was involved in this, and I was involved in it as well. So the point was we were trying to get the recording made while this modulation is still on, using the Kiwi. I did actually get a loan of another Kiwi from NIST that NIST has said that we can alter it and make the same change to it by adding the external clocking using the Leo Bodner. So I haven't talked to John about this yet. I just picked that up from NIST. And if we wanted to have a second radio that could do the same thing, just record directly to a computer, we could consider having both ends, both WWV and WWVH recordings done at the same time using the same equipment and not over the internet. So there's, you know, Christina wanted to do recordings at the same time. So I don't know exactly what the plans are.
Okay, well, you know, but of course, my friend Glenn N6GN has a, you know, Kiwis, disciplined Kiwis that are line of sight to WWV. So if you need to monitor and make recordings, you could use his.
Right, Glenn Elmore's great to use, but you know, we're trying to figure out, are we doing the same thing at both ends? If you're recording on the Kiwi that's networked, is it? And he's only 13 kilometers or something like that from the station.
Yeah, it's well, of course, it has to be, you know, yeah, I mean, once the Kiwi itself, I mean, it, you know, the recording that does across the internet doesn't affect the quality of the recording. It's a that's independent, but it's a line of sight between the antenna, receive antenna, and the WWE transmitters, which was the issue. I mean, you can use my GPS disciplined Kiwis in Maui to listen to VH, but it's not line of sight. Of course, you know, I'm a couple of 100 miles away, so we know from other measurements that as soon as you get out of the, you know, line of sight, there's the ionospheric multipath just corrupts the stability of the signal, of the received signals. It drifts all over, the phase drifts all over the place. So it's
well, that was the point. The point was to get a ground wave recording, to not actually be on the other side of the island either, to be within line of sight.
Yeah. Well, that's it's very difficult. There's only that one community, Waimea, that's right where there's you know, a population that and a school, a high school that I thought was a candidate, but nothing. I didn't get any responses from my efforts there, and I haven't found any other path to somebody on Kauai. It's not it doesn't seem very active in terms of radio technology over there. They like to talk on their nets. That's what seems to be the primary interest. So, okay, well, if I can do anything, you know, let me know. I do go over there periodically, but so far I haven't found any site.
Rob, I'm sure we'll be in touch and talking about this a little bit more.
Okay.
And I'll bring it up with Christina.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, any other updates, questions, comments?
I've got to go.
That's
Rachel,
fair.
Bill Engelkey's not here, but I've been uploading data, digital RF data from a Grape 1 for a couple of weeks, and I was wondering if that's something that we're still working on or not, or to what extent.
By working on it, what do you mean, Stan?
Well, I don't really know the purpose, I guess. I don't know if it was the original thought of moving all the Grapes over to digital RF, new radio and digital RF, which is what I have.
Well, there's kind of two paths. Long-term, yes, that gives the best science. I've heard Nathaniel say. I can't speak to that directly, but I've heard him say that. However, Christina Collins has an ongoing experiment that uses the Grape data in the old format. So
Right.
what we're even considering, you may have heard Nathaniel say, we're considering asking people to hold both a Grape 1 in the old format and a Grape 2 in the new format at a number of sites during the eclipses. Kind of a tough ask, but I think we're learning something from what you're doing. I mean, and because they're going to start working on this visualization software, so having more data in digital RF in the Alabama server right now is probably helpful.
Okay, because that was part of the question. Should I keep running this? I mean, it's just sitting there running, that's fine. Or did we complete the objective of uploading data? Okay.
Yeah, I
I'll
mean, Bill
try
would
and
have
get in
to.
touch with Bill though. See what,
Okay,
okay.
Okay. In which case, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So 7-3.